I want to know how it was working on a Coen Brothers set with Scarlett Johansson as your opposite.
So that was my first booking in Los Angeles.
What?
What?
Yeah.
Not have an SD card. Rip.
Tragic. Welcome back to the Hags podcast. This is episode Sweet 16. We have a very special guest today. Jimmy, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, we got an actor, writer, producer, CEO, and founder of It's All Good Production and YouTube internet sensation, Noah Barron.
Wow.
Welcome.
Sensation. What a fun word.
Sensation. I know. You got millions of views. You gotta, I mean,
I
yeah.
I
lean
guess
in.
that's a sensation. I don't know. I
It
wouldn't
is a
see it that way,
sensation.
but I'll take it.
It's pretty sensational.
I would say so. Yeah.
Well, thank
Um,
you. I'm happy to be here.
yeah, thanks. You're a big supporter of us and the podcast and our careers, so had to bring you on.
Y'all are crushing it. Big supporter over here.
Yeah,
Biggest fan.
Well,
thanks.
thank you.
We'll clip that
Great.
from yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm curious like how you got started. Like, did you always know you wanted to be like an actor, content creator, filmmaker? Like when did that little creative seed get planted in little baby Noah?
So, little baby Noah. That's what my wife calls me. Just
Little
kidding.
baby
That'd be,
blue.
we'd have some issues there. My story is pretty funny because a lot of people are like, I saw Anthony Hopkins in this film and it changed my life. For me, it was the Power Rangers, which to
Ooh,
y'all might not be a big surprise, but when
no.
I was 9, I wanted to be a Power Ranger. And I said to my mom, Mom, I want to be a Power Ranger. And she said, Well, if you want to be a Power Ranger, you have to learn to act because those are actors. So I joined Boston Children's Opera in
The opera.
Massachusetts. It was called
Okay.
Boston Children's Opera. This guy named David. He took like fairy tales like Cinderella and rewrote them to be his own original opera.
Oh, that's
Rights
so
wise,
cool.
I don't know how he did it, but my first one was Dracula, and I was Professor Von Helsing. I had an aria, and I came in a month before we went up because their Professor Von Helsing dropped out. So you didn't have to audition, you didn't have to have any skill or talent. You just paid the money, and they gave you a role. So I did that, and then I did about 13 more operas, and um, then I went to arts camp. I did 4 musicals there. I went
That's so cool.
to yeah, I went to college to play lacrosse. I got recruited to play lacrosse.
Where'd you
Stopped
go to
playing.
school?
I went to my first school was Roger Williams University in Rhode Island, very small liberal arts school. I felt like I wasn't challenged enough, so I transferred to American University in DC.
Oh, that's a great school.
That's what people say. I think it's
It's a
coming
great
up.
school. My
Nice.
friend did her master's degree. It's a great school. Yeah.
Interesting. I feel like it's coming up and up. I was just listening to something on YouTube and
It's pretty competitive now.
it is
Yeah.
now. Yeah. I guess I feel like when I went there, it wasn't that competitive or difficult. I don't know. But I fell back in love with acting.
Mm.
Um, and I had this choice to make if I wanted to go broadcast journalism or theater. I had my dual degree in both. And I remember I had a faux hawk for a play I was in. And my broadcast journalism professor said, You're going to either stop wearing that faux hawk or I'm dropping you down a grade because you can't do that as an anchor. And I had to be an anchor.
Yeah.
And I made a clear decision to wear the faux hawk on air. And she dropped me down from an A to a B. And that was my like, okay, there's no going back. I'm going to be an actor.
Yeah.
I'm choosing that path. Drove out to LA with my best friend at the time. Um,
What
and
year
I,
was that?
ugh, 2010, January 2010. This
Wow.
story is already taking too long because I should already be at the end. But
No, I
then
love all the juicy deets.
Mhm.
I could this could be the hour podcast, just
No,
me
I
explaining how
love
we
it.
got here.
We need a
No, people
timeline.
love to hear that. People, because it's like,
Yeah,
where do I fit in the timeline? You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah. So I booked my first feature film, my lead of a feature film in Washington, D.C. when I graduated. It was called Adams Morgan the movie. I fulfilled my 3-week contract and then I drove out here. Um, I was doing a casting director workshop with my dear friend Ross, and he came to me one day. He said, "Why do we keep spending money to meet these casting directors? This isn't really helping our career. I mean, it is, but it's not. Let's just take that money and create our own content, and then they'll see it." And I said, "Great, that's a great idea." So he said, I have an idea. It's called Cuddle Club. It's a shot-for-shot remake of the Fight Club trailer, but about men cuddling with each other.
I
And I
love
said,
it.
I'm in. So we did it, and it went viral.
Yep.
And Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote the screenplay and the book of Fight Club, blogged about it. We were
Oh,
TV Guide's
what?
biggest thing on the internet for 2 weeks. Yeah. So we got a lot of press from that. And we said, I think we're good at this. We should try doing this again. We did a second video called Facebook Stalking. That one day got 300,000 views. And we were like, okay, let's maybe do this for a living. So we taught ourselves how to do all of the things, right? Direct, produce, light, sound, edit, color correct, audio mix. And we both took turns on like what we would learn. I learned more of the business stuff of producing and casting and organizing people together. Ross did behind the camera and kind of behind the computer for the time being. We did that. We did that every single week for like 6 or 7 years. And then our big break was Hewlett Packard found us and reached out and they said, hey, we have like a contract that we have these 7 videos. We have $25,000. Can you guys do this? And we were like, yes, we can. So basically,
Yeah.
then people just started to hire us to do the things that we did for fun. And that was always the hope and the goal. That since split up. Ross left Los Angeles. I was just in Memphis and Jonesboro, Arkansas for him.
I
He
saw
got
that.
married.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was his wedding, which is wild because when I was there, everyone came up to me and like was like, Noah, oh my God, give me huge hugs and like introducing themselves. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I do not know who you are. She's
Yeah.
like, I know, but you're like a celebrity here in Jonesboro. It was really cute.
Internet sensation.
Internet sensation. God. So yeah, and then last year I started my own company. It's All Good Productions, and
Popping off.
it's been going pretty great.
Yeah.
What you see is social media, and social media is a lie because people usually only share the good. So to me, like I say to you all the time, I'm like, you guys are crushing it. Like you guys are doing all the things right. And I'm guessing for you, it doesn't feel like you're crushing it all the time.
Oh no.
Social media is a lie. So yes, things are good and we get into it, but like I just always take a step back from what I see on social media and be like, it's not all good all the time, even though my name is literally it's all good. But I digress. And
Yeah.
now we're
Well, yeah,
here. Now we're talking.
that's
Oh, and then
incredible.
through that, Anthony and I became dear
Yeah.
friends, and I started an acting studio with him.
Yeah. Because I'm actually really curious about that. Were you a student with Anthony or did you meet him like out in the wild? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So I was a student at a previous acting studio. And as the young hustler I was, I went up to him one day and I said, hey, if you ever need a personal assistant, like I'm looking for work and I would love to be your assistant. And we were both from Boston, so we had that bond. We weren't like best friends at that point. We were just, he was my mentor, and that was pretty much it. So he said, yeah, I actually am looking for an assistant, like to help with my calendar and things, yada yada. Then he hits me up one day and just, hey, I'm starting my own acting studio and I want you to be my office admin. What do you think? And I should say before that, he made me his key student. He had a workout class on Saturday at this old acting studio, which is
I've seen photos of that.
the formation of that class, the workout class. That
Oh,
was his one class that he taught, unless he was a substitute. I was his key student for that every Saturday morning. And then when he went to make his own acting studio, he took me along with him. I remember the phone call. I remember exactly where I was. And yeah, 13 years ago, we started the studio.
wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
incredible. That
We
is
opened the studio
crazy.
within 1 month of him calling me and us being open.
Where was
Wow.
the first
Less than a month.
location for
It
the
was
studio?
it was on Santa Monica Boulevard. No, it was on Sunset. Santa Monica or Sunset. I should know this. It was on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood on the corner of Santa Monica and Vine
Mm.
at a place called the Complex Theater. We rented out one room for like 4 hours, 4 nights a week.
So you helped him because you're the COO of
Mhm.
Anthony Gilardi Acting Studio. Were
I am
you,
now, yeah.
yeah. And like at that time when you were the office admin and helping him, were you also training with him or were you just doing like the business piece of the studio?
Yeah, I
Or
was training
admin?
with him as well.
You were.
Yeah,
That's incredible. So
yeah.
when is the timeline of you making your own content? Were you making your own content when because that was 13 years ago, and I guess a couple years later you started making your own content.
It was right around the same time. I was already making my own content, actually, now that I think about
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I met Anthony 6 months into being in Los Angeles, and that was actually right about the time I created my own content. Because at that previous studio is where I did Captain Planet trailer, which
Got it.
is my second most viral video ever. It has 15 million views. And
Yeah.
that was formed at that previous studio. So yeah, it was around the same time.
Do you ever miss like making skits? I know you do it technically, like you do it with your production company when you're being hired out, but do you ever miss
Yeah,
like making things and like putting them on YouTube and like,
that's a great question. Yes and no.
yeah,
Um, I get ideas all the time of just like I have a running notepad of all the ideas I think would be
oh my
really funny
gosh,
sketches. I'm
same.
sure you do as well. I mean, that's just like,
Unfinished, just like
yep.
one word. Yeah.
I don't it takes so much work. I mean, as
I
y'all know,
know.
like even doing it all myself and not having to hire people, then just promoting it and getting it out and emailing the websites and the listservs and the fans and tweeting, like making sure people see it. And then some of my favorite videos, like no one ever watched. I'm like, this is devastating. Like I
Yeah.
thought this was going to go viral and it got 200 views.
Yeah.
So yes and no. At a certain point, I just said I need to start focusing on feature films and I need to make this a business and start
Yeah.
getting paid to do this because I still love to do it even when I'm getting paid. Like I genuinely love to do it. And the way I see the commercials that I do, they're sketches while selling a
They are.
project.
Yeah.
So like that's the way I go into all of my videos is like, okay, pitching them a sketch that integrates their project or product.
Yeah. That's we're at this weird crossroad right now of like wanting to create more traction online, like through our writing, and then also like figuring out how we can commodify ourselves to make money
Mm-hmm.
as a company while also trying to we're in development for our feature film. So it's just like, yeah, we're where you were a decade ago, you know?
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
It's a lot.
And
Yeah.
at the same time, like you're not too far behind I am now. Like I'm doing it for a living, but I still have to hustle. I still have to grind. I still have to get my clients. Like right now, I don't think I have any clients coming up. Like I have no contract. I was 1 minute late to this meeting because I had a last minute client call for someone who I just had introed with. And now I have to, after this call, figure out budget and rate and all that fun stuff. But like, I'm not
So
too far ahead of y'all.
how do you I like I think this would be interesting for listeners that are trying to, make money for their production company and expand. How do you find your clients? Like what are
Yeah.
you how do you put yourself out there? How do you promote and how do you, get a sale?
This is like the question I get asked the most as a producer.
Yeah.
And for those listening and not watching, you should know I'm a straight white man. So I already have a leg up and I know that. Um, I have not had to work or try to get clients for years.
Yeah, you
Word
told me
of
that. That's
mouth,
crazy.
like I haven't had to do it. That's why I just started my company last year because until then I didn't have to promote. And that was just a kick for me to be like, okay, if I am getting this work and these clients without trying, let's see what happens if I do try. So honestly, the clients I've gotten have been just relationships I've made or word of mouth. Um, I'm always thinking, does this person need a video? So, a coffee shop that I'm going to go to this weekend, I know that they are a small business and it would be great for them to have a commercial. So I'm going to go in, give them my card and say, hey, this is what I do for a living. I can do a video at almost any budget. Like, if you're interested, here's my website. Check me out. That's my new play. But I'm literally always thinking, like, okay, does this company need a video?
Mm.
And if they do, I email them. There's a couple companies on Shark Tank that I watched, and they either got deals or they didn't. But I know they're startups and they probably need content. I go to their website, I go to their Instagram, I see what they have up. If they're missing, as I call it, like a hero video, I reach out to them. I find their email address and I say, hey, my name's Noah. I'm a producer. Here's my work. I have some fun ideas for your company. Let me know if you want to chat. That has not panned out yet. I have gotten no work through that, but I'm still
Interesting.
going to do it.
Of course you should. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it will
Yeah.
fall through, and then yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of word of
Interesting.
mouth. It
Yeah.
really is just like
That's this
putting in,
industry. Yeah.
it's cliche, but like putting in work, making relationships, and things happen. This meeting I had right before this, I acted in a project with someone 10 years ago with Ross. We got hired to do a Doritos spec commercial. And then we've just stayed in touch on Facebook. He saw I started my own company. He hired me to cast something for him. And now this other person just wants to hire me just to cast.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I can do that. I run an acting studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got
We
actors.
yeah, you do. You got a lot. You got a roster. That's what we talk about all the time, like on set for new filmmakers is like be nice to like be helpful and other people will remember that and want to work
Mhm.
with you. And that's how we've built our network so fast, especially in the Southeast because it is so small. By just doing things and like meeting
Yeah.
other people and like having our shit together and people being like, oh, I want to work with that person. And then people always remember that, even if it is a decade down the line, you know?
Yeah. And I feel it comes very easily if you like what you do and you're not a
Yeah.
terrible person. Like it really
Yeah.
is that simple. It's like, don't be a dick and also love what you do. And
Yeah.
that combination gets rid of all of like, you don't have to try to be helpful on set or try to be
That's
nice or
true.
try to be memorable. Like, I
Yeah.
don't try to be any of those things. I just love what I do. And I like to think of myself as a decent human being. And I
Yeah.
think that is how I've made a living doing this.
Not to get too woo-woo, but isn't that essentially law of attraction? Like when you're operating
100%.
in the operating
100%.
in the vein of who you are and what your purpose is, you're operating at a higher frequency and people take note of that and are gravitated towards that. Like you're energetically pulling people in.
My wife and I talk about abundance mindset
Yes. Yeah.
an obnoxious amount.
Same. I've
I,
been
I
going to sleep to it.
it is it is like every night we say three things we're grateful for each.
Yep.
We we're all I know there is so much work out there. There is so much money. There's so many good people. There's so much everything out there. It's just waiting. And you just have to find it. Like I think it's that
Mhm.
simple. And I know that's oversimplifying and like people are probably like, this guy's an idiot. That's not how life works. But I think there's a lot to that. And I really, really live my life with the law of attraction in mind,
You
truly.
have to. Yeah. That
Yeah.
shows like how secure and competent you or like how confident, like you're competent and secure you are within yourself because like to
Yeah.
get to that space is so hard as creatives because a lot of creatives operate out of scarcity
Yeah.
and like yeah, that's the only way you're going to grow as a company and as a person is if you have that abundant mindset. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
been
And I see
sleeping to
people who
it. Like
don't.
it's
That's great.
yeah, you can feel it. No,
You
you
can feel
feel
it and
it
you can see it.
around them.
Hmm.
Yeah. God,
Yeah.
we've been talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Big
think
fan of that.
yeah, same. Yeah. You can that's a thing about the city is like Hodon. I've said this so many times on the podcast, so I'll keep it short. But Hodon calls this city like she's like it's like looking in a mirror, you know, and if like you show up to the
Mm,
city, I know it's brilliant, right?
that's
If
really
you
smart.
I know,
It's
that's why I
really
say it. I
smart.
steal it. I did quote her, but yeah, she it's like who you surround yourself with is like what you get and like how you the energy you're putting into the city is what's given back to you. And yeah, that's why so many people crash and burn is because they're just operating out of scarcity and ego. And
That's the mirror thing is really, really fascinating to me because
I
for the
know.
last 10 plus years, everyone's been like, oh, LA is full of fake people and out to get themselves and all these things. I'm like, that's not my experience.
No.
And honestly, in the last few years, it has been more and more, unfortunately. The more money gets involved, the more big projects get involved. I do start to see that more and more.
Well, your network
And
is open and you're not controlling it as much, you know?
right, right.
Yeah.
But that mirror thing is fascinating. That's so accurate. That is like, I'm gonna steal it. I'm gonna text her and be like, hey,
I
I'm stealing your
I
thing, by the way.
use it all the time. Like I've
So
quoted her like
smart.
5 times on this podcast saying that thing. Yeah, no,
I
it's
want to
brilliant.
see now. I want to do a sketch about that or a short film. Like that is a brilliant idea.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
really
know.
smart.
Bring me in if you do.
Done.
Okay, hold on.
Hired. Cast.
Um, okay, another thing I'm curious about, like, and I think this is another interesting thing for our listeners is like what type, I know you make videos as a production company, but like, is it new media? Like, is it like what type of content are you creating? Is it real footage? Like, is it like what's the type of thing that you're producing for companies at your production company?
Yeah, I would say mostly it's like digital marketing. It's commercials for streaming.
Mm.
Um, like I've seen, but streaming's so fascinating because like if you're watching YouTube or Hulu or Max or whatever you're watching, I've seen my own videos on there.
Oh,
Like
that's so
they've
cool.
popped up as I'm watching, especially because I researched the company. So my IP address or whatever knows that I'm interested in this company. So they'll show me my commercials that I've produced. So typically that, as y'all know, we just did that series of like 15 reels. That was a lot of fun for actors. So clips for actors. I'm going to do another one next year
I was about to say you should do
of
that
that.
again. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was really great all around. Like it was incredibly efficient. I we wrapped early every day. Like it was really, really a great situation. And then in that, I also produced, wrote, directed, and edited 4 spec commercials.
Oh,
For
wow.
I got asked to do something similar to this for an acting class that's online. It was like 13 actors. And at the end, one reached out and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing. Like, I want to do spec commercials. Could you do that?" And I said, "I don't see why not." So we just did 4. We did 4 different companies, 4 different spec commercials, and we shot it in a day. I edited it in a day, and now they're done. And I did that part of that whole Reels thing.
For our listeners, what is a spec commercial?
A spec commercial is speculative. So you're doing it on spec, you're doing it for free. You have an idea for, let's say, Etsy. So on spec, you just either write a commercial or shoot a commercial, and then you can hypothetically send it to said company and see if they'll buy it, see if they want it. Typically, they won't, but uh, actors like to have spec commercials because it helps them get
Commercial.
legitimate commercials because their agents can submit them and say, "Hey, look at this Etsy commercial they did," and casting might not know that spec.
I've actually never heard of that before. I just
Really?
learned something. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I just did
Um,
one of them was for Etsy. One is for a company that I'm actually a creative director for called Kid Coffee. One is for Pacifica, and one was for Duolingo.
oh, so I love Duolingo. I love
Yeah,
their
Always
marketing
on it.
department. I
that's
know
funny.
their marketing is so good.
Well, I have a spec
Um,
commercial for them now. And that one's really good too. They're all really good, but yeah, they
yeah,
were
is it
fun.
on your website?
Not yet. I'm
No.
finalizing some special effects for 2 of them
Okay.
because I have a couple special effects in them, and then they'll be done. They'll be done.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say if they're done, we can editor Cheyenne can weave her little
Ooh.
commercial in.
Has producing and like acting always been like your main job, or did you like ever have to do weird, boring day jobs in LA?
I only ever had to do weird, boring day jobs
Oh.
in LA. Yeah, I mean, making a living, I don't know how long it's been. I still have boring jobs. I still have like not producing jobs. I shouldn't say boring, but I take work where it comes, and most all of it is creative. I haven't really had to take a non-creative job in a while, but yeah, I mean, I was a waiter for years in West Hollywood. I was, God, the amount of odd jobs I did. I was on TaskRabbit for a minute, building IKEA furniture for random people when they needed it. Um, I made duct tape art for a living on Etsy for a couple of months. In my office, I don't know if you saw above the window, there's 6 Power Ranger pieces that are all made of duct tape. And
Oh.
I taught myself, I saw that at an art show and I loved it. And I saw a big Batman one. And I said to my wife, I think I could do that. And I went home and I did it. And then people saw them and started commissioning me to do them. So I started doing that. I made a few
That's
thousand
so cool.
dollars. Yeah. And then Warner Brothers reached out to me with a cease and desist because I did all the Justice League characters. And then one of the lawyers at Warner Brothers loved them so much that he hit me up. No, he hit up my fraternity brother and said, I love these. I think my friend, my fraternity brother, like shared it. This lawyer at Warner Brothers, who's like related to him, saw it contacted me, asked to buy all of them. And I was like,
That's
yes. And can I have a tour of Warner Brothers? He is like, yep. Told his lawyer friends at Warner Brothers to not worry about me, to revoke the cease and desist. And now they're hanging in his office at Warner Brothers.
that's
Oh my
Yeah, I
God.
hilarious.
forgot
That's
about that
so
story until
funny.
right now. Crazy.
That's so funny.
So
Oh my
yes,
God.
I've done all of the things in Los Angeles, anything
Okay.
I can to kind of stay in LA.
Yeah. You know,
Nice.
so I have a 9 to 5 remote job, and I know the grass is always greener, but sometimes I'm like, I want a weird 6 week stint odd job, like just like something that just like doesn't require so much of my mental capabilities and like during the day time. But
It's tough. I mean, that is, I mean, as like Anthony says, like even if you have to be a janitor, like anything that's going to keep you out in LA living your dream is, I know that sounds corny and cliche, but
it's
it's
true.
true.
Yeah, that's why
And,
we're
and,
here,
and
right?
the grass is always greener. Like
Yeah.
even I was like, should I get a real job? I've never had a real person job. I did for 5 months producing content for a YouTuber, and it was the worst 5 months of my life.
Like
So,
siphons everything off of you, and it like
oh yeah,
it's awful. It like
yeah,
prevents you from being creative. It takes you, it just, yeah, you're
yeah.
completely
Was
emptied.
was producing for the YouTuber a bad experience, or was it just time consuming? Like, what made it a negative thing?
So for the first month or two, it was a dream come true. So my wife and I at the time said we had fuck you money, or we didn't have to think about buying anything. We could just buy it. We had fuck you money. I was making more money than I've ever seen in my life, and I was the lead producer for these YouTubers.
Can
Um,
you tell us and we bleep it out?
the YouTubers,
Yeah.
I signed a very intense NDA, so I can't tell anyone.
Okay, never mind.
I
Damn.
know. Uh, yes. But it was very abusive. It was emotionally abusive. Uh I was miserable. I was the worst version of myself. I had people come up to me and be like, "You don't seem like the spark that is Noah Barron that I've always known is like I don't see it anymore." And I didn't feel it anymore. Like I was waking up every day miserable. Um, I spoke to Ross's stepfather, who's a psychologist, and I told him how I felt, and he's like, "You have suicidal ideation." And I don't know if I'm saying this right or making something up. I think that's what he said. And it's you have no intention of doing anything to yourself or hurting
Yep.
yourself. You just don't want to be alive.
Yep.
And that's how I felt. And it was the first time I felt that way in my entire life. So they were incredibly abusive. It was unhealthy. And I got out of there. But it was very,
Mhm.
it was scary. And that was a big lesson to me of I'm not going to do things I don't want to do
Yep.
just for the money. I'm just
Mhm.
not going to do it.
No. Oh
So
man, that's
big like
horrible.
mental lesson. Yeah, but I'm in a weird way, I'm glad I went through it because I am so much better for it and it taught me so much about myself and just about the world, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
This will probably be pretty quick, but I was scrolling through your IMDb,
Uh-oh.
and I was a teenage girl in 2011, and I saw you were a stand-in on Pretty Little Liars. How
Is
was,
that on there? Is that on my IMDb? That's hilarious.
do you remember who you stood in for or what that experience was like?
Y'all, I'm about to blow your mind. Okay. I was the male stand-in for every single man on the show.
Stop.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I was the one male stand-in. I got hired for the season through a friend of mine. Her father was the first AD. And I interviewed. I had no prior experience, hit it off with them,
Of course.
and they hired me. And it was the best job I'd ever had in my life. I was making so much money, eating so well around all these stars, becoming friends with the cast. I don't know if I can say this story.
I can cut it. I want to know though. I
Yeah.
I want to know. Yeah.
I think I can tell the story now. Because I got fired for it.
Oh.
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 First time I've ever been fired. Um, that's probably not true. The creator of the show, so I was on it for a couple weeks. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I was learning so much. Best job I've ever had in my life. Not a single downside. I would stand in, even for some of the girls too, like when they wanted to go back to their trailer and they needed to talk to someone, like Ashley Benson, I think that's her name. Like
Yeah.
she had a scene where she had to talk to another girl, but the other girl had like either was wrapped or whatever. So I like sat in holding her hand during a scene. And just so she had someone to talk to. And of course, I didn't say anything back. She just did her monologue to me. So the creator of the show saw me one day, and at that point, they hadn't figured out who A was. So they were like, I like that guy's body type because it's a man, but he's slender. So I want to make him A. So they fitted me for an episode. At that point, I had made friends with a couple of the cast members who I'm still in touch with today. Brant Doherty, who played Noel, and Brandon Robinson, who played Lucas. So Brant, Brandon, and I became friends. We were hanging out one day playing Wii at Brant's place. And through these tweets and Instagram posts of all of us together, I started to get followers. And they were like, who is he playing? Like, who is he? Noah's on set, Noah Barron, little articles written about me. And then I tweet out like, hey guys, I'm so excited. Like I'll be playing A next week or something. Like I just got fit to play A, like stay tuned. And I didn't think anything of it. And within like 3 hours, I got an email from production being like, hey, Noah, you don't need to come in tomorrow. So Thursday. We'll call you. Start having like a panic attack. I start freaking out. I get a call at the end of the day or midday Friday, just being like from my friend's dad, who's the first AD, being like, you're fired. Like, why would you do that? Like that's goes against your contract. That was a really bad move, yada, yada, yada. And that was it. And then I was off the set and I never saw any of them again. And I was devastated because in hindsight, I was like, that's so dumb. But I didn't know I had a following. I didn't know I couldn't do this. So that was a huge, huge lesson to me of like, don't freaking tweet. Don't post. The amount of people I see post, and even I am guilty of it. Like I got in trouble recently for posting that I even had an audition. I didn't say what it was. I didn't have any dialogue in it. I think my wife filmed it and I just reshared it. No dialogue, but casting like reach out was like basically like you're out of the running. Like why would you post this? But I also had 3 other auditions that day, so it's like
They
how
don't
did you know
know.
this is
Yeah.
even exactly? So that irked me a little bit, but yeah, that's so you thought it was gonna be a short answer, probably my longest answer yet. And I don't know what I just
That's
even said, but that was the standing
That's
up for the liars.
crazy. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you ruined the spoiler. Like
Kind of. I mean, yes, like yes. I don't even know who. I think it ended up being a woman or a man.
it was
It was
it
two
was
people.
A was multiple people.
Right.
The first one was Mona.
yeah.
Really?
hmm
Mona was.
She was the first A. I think it was revealed like in season 2, maybe.
I feel like they just made everyone A.
I know. They were like, we
I
gotta do what we can.
they didn't. I don't believe they knew who their A was until it was very much like Lost. Like they didn't figure out who their A was. They kind of just figured it out as they went.
Yeah. Back then too, like because it would come out every Tuesday and like back then television came out while they were still filming.
Hmm.
So I imagine it changed depending on the audience perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure they went with the audience.
So
Mhm.
much TV back then was like
Yeah.
dictated by the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so interesting though.
That is
Don't-
really interesting. That's
Don't
crazy.
tweet. Moral of the story. Don't
Yeah.
post
Don't
about
tweet.
things in this industry.
I've
People
tried,
do all
yeah.
the time still. And I'm glad you said that story and didn't shy away from it because people need to have it drilled into their heads. I see it
Yeah.
every
I
single
see
day.
it on TikTok. They're like, I auditioned for this role, and I'm like, why are you saying this? And like drop in the self-tape. And
Mhm.
it's like
When
that's
people
crazy.
drop self-tapes right after they've done them, I'm like, this is the worst idea. Also, like, unless you book it, is that really what you want to show? Like,
No.
be smart. It blows my mind. Like, I went in for This Is Us like 12 times and I never booked it. I went in for like every episode for 3 months. And when I see those episodes, or when I saw those episodes, I would see who they went with. And then I would post like, hey, I went in for this role, or I went in for this film, or like, oh my God, I'll be watching shows and be saying the dialogue. I'm like, how do I know this? I'm like, oh, I auditioned for this. Then I'll post about it because it's fun. It's like it doesn't matter anymore. But man, until it's out, just shut up. Just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you look so green. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
It
My
really
bad.
does. Well, you
And
didn't know.
don't
You had to
I,
learn.
I had to
I
learn.
also That's also interesting because of the time it was. That's when social media was exploding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, you didn't know. I'm sure that happened to a lot of people back then.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
even have Instagram then. Like, yeah, social media was just becoming kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Crazy.
Okay. My question was actually in line with Cheyenne's question because I want to know how it was working on a Coen Brothers set with Scarlett Johansson as your opposite.
So that was my first booking in Los Angeles.
What?
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was my first legitimate set that I was ever on in my life.
Holy sh!
And it's 5 a.m. I'm sitting in hair and makeup. I look over to one chair and Scarlett's sitting there. And I'm just like, oh, that's my co-star. Like, I'm freaking out.
I would be sweating bullets.
It, it, I at I hate the term fake it till you make it, but at that point,
You
I
have
had to
to,
tell
yeah.
myself that because I'm like, I deserve to be here. I booked this out of the 5,000 actors that were submitted. And just to back up, I went in for that audition. And during the audition, the casting director said, hey, I want you to read this other role as well. And with Anthony's, knowledge in my head, I said, great, can I just step out for a second? Stepped out, read the scene, made a strong choice, love or hate. I picked that I loved her at the beginning and hated her at the end. I found an arc, made some strong choices, walked back in and did it. Then the next Monday, I got called in again for a sailor role. And throughout then, I got pinned for this role that I eventually booked. Then they booked me. No, then I had a callback. They were like, okay, don't come to the sailor role. I had a callback with the brothers in the room. Ethan comes up to me, goes, hi, I'm Ethan. I go, yeah, no, I know who you are.
Yeah.
And Joel's in the corner. I'm like, hey, Joel, do the scene, 5 words, page in my hand. I'm going to forget my name, let alone these 5 words. I'm going to hold the script. Did it, got a laugh, left, booked it. So I'm on set. Scarlett, Josh, and I are driving over to set from base camp. And they're going through the scene. Scarlett's like, hey, Josh, can we read it out loud? And then, very under her breath, she reads my lines because she doesn't realize who I am. So then they're about to go again. I was like, hey, I can read my lines if you want. She goes, oh my God, is that you? I was like, yeah, I'm playing that role. She's like, oh my God. And then introduced herself. We talked. We read the scene out loud. So when we get to set, I'm there for like 5 hours. Also, my first experience ever with not having a human being in front of me. They had a Post-it note on the matchbox, on the box that holds the lens, basically. And that was Scarlett on my close-up. Scarlett stood right next to me, like literally right here. So I could hear her. So I'm talking to her here, and she's here and saying her lines. I'm responding to a Post-it note. Josh was the most amazing human I've ever met in my life. I understand why he is a star.
Yep.
I'll always tell the story. He comes over to me. There's three chairs. Literally, Josh, me, Scarlett. Josh comes over and squeezes my inner thigh. Goes, hey, buddy, and he sits down. He had just been cast as Thanos in the MCU, so of course I'm freaking out. He had just done this Mount Everest movie. I start talking to him, and I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be really great for my acting reel. He's like, oh my God, acting reels. I forgot about those. Like, yeah, oh man, resumes and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah. He was so sincere. Everyone who came in, he lit up the room. They had a wrap party at an amazing sushi restaurant. When Joel and Ethan saw me, My wife tells the story better, and it's just egotistical when I call it, but they like lit up and like gave me a big hug. And I was
That's
like, oh,
so
you even
crazy.
know who I am. Introduced my wife. And then I went back in for an ADR session. So got paid more money. And then at the end, it's not even my voice.
That's
They
crazy.
dubbed
I didn't
over
know that.
someone else because I think in testing, I didn't understand what the line was even when I was on set. It said, gas again, ma'am. And she goes, ma'am, miss. Do I look like I'm married? And I go, no, miss. That's the line. In the final film, someone else is saying, I think just the first line. And they say, do you have gas again, ma'am? When I was on set, when it said gas again, ma'am, I didn't know it meant that she was like gassy and like had to fart. I thought it was like a gas tank or like, do you want gas?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
she's underwater. That's the scene. When Ethan told me that on set, I was like, ah, my bad. Okay, cool. So then in post, I think they fixed it to say, do you have gas again, ma'am? Because I think gas again, ma'am didn't make sense.
It makes no sense. Yeah, yeah.
Even I was confused and I was the actor doing it.
Like, I'm just saying whatever it says. I don't care. Yeah.
So that was crazy. I mean, Roger Deakins was the DP, who's the winningest DP of all time in the Academy Awards. And with the brothers, it's really interesting because like Joel and Ethan would both come up to me separately and give me notes, but they didn't contradict each other at all. But I don't think they talked about it. I think they're just like have a symbiotic relationship where they
They just,
know they're not going to contradict.
yeah.
And that was really cool.
What were the notes like?
I don't even like I could make them up, but I don't even remember what they were. I don't even remember what they were, but I just remember them not contradicting one another and like both made sense and I could do
Yeah.
both.
So is that how you got your SAG card? Was the that or did you have it?
I got my SAG card through Cuddle Club,
Cuddle Club.
Really?
bringing it back to the beginning. Yeah, I did a new
Wow.
media project. At that time, it was a lot. That's when new media just started. So you could Taft Hartley yourself. And I Taft Hartley about 30 of my friends in the
Wow.
first 3 videos I did. I Taft Hartley people who weren't even in the projects. Like I was like, who wants you got a Taft Hartley and you get a Taft Hartley. If you want a Taft Hartley, I'll give you a Taft Hartley. I literally have to fill out a paperwork. I'm a signatory producer and you get a Taft Hartley. So I did Cuddle Club and I at that time all you needed was one union actor. Ross was in the union. He had his SAG card through a commercial. So I got to Taft Hartley anyone I wanted, and I Taft Hartley myself.
Damn.
We gotta Taft Hartley ourselves.
Yeah,
We
we
gotta,
need that.
It's a lot harder now.
I
Mhm.
think it is probably,
I,
yeah. New media.
they've changed it. I would also say, don't worry about it. When you're meant to
Yeah.
join the union, you'll join the union.
Yeah, you're right.
You're like, I'm thinking of going FICOR because,
I've
and I
heard
have been
people,
for 10 years. There's
I've heard people
so
tell
much
me.
non-union work.
I know.
Yeah, I'm
I
staying
know.
eligible as long as I can.
Stay
Yeah.
eligible for as long as you can until you book the job that's going to pay you to join the industry.
Yeah.
That's I didn't follow that advice. I would give that advice now. There's so I have friends who are making $60,000-$70,000 a year doing non-union commercials, and they just book all the time.
I know.
It gets so much harder when you get union because you're
I
playing
know.
with the big dogs. You really are.
Yeah. And nobody's working right now. The industry is not what
So
it's
dead.
not producing what it was producing. So all
Mhm.
of those union commercial gigs, like I mean, guest star day players are going to people that, like A, B, C list celebrities, actors.
Yeah, and they're what used to be a guest star is now a co-star.
I
They're
know.
paying you as a co-star instead of a guest star.
Ugh.
Yep. That was a major problem in the Southeast that a lot of actors had. Like you'd be doing guest star work and only get credited and paid as a co-star.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, big co-star. And yeah, it used to be a guest star. It's crazy. It's wild.
Mm,
It's a
yeah.
pretty wild time right now in our industry.
I know.
Oh, while we're talking about this, what are your thoughts on all of it and what do you see the next year or two looking like?
So I've heard the term survive till
Mhm.
25 a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm terrified of AI. I'll say that much. I'm terrified of all AI, though I know how incredibly helpful it is, and I've used it. I've used
I know.
ChatGPT.
Use it all the time.
Daily.
Great, great for
Daily.
emails, great for contracts.
Yeah.
I've only used it a handful of times. I have a dear friend who uses it for everything, and I'm like, that's so smart. I'm afraid of how dumb it's going to make us because we have to do so much less thinking and critical thinking. So let me just say I'm terrified of AI in our industry specifically. In terms of where we're at and how I feel about it, I'm choosing to have a not negative or positive approach. I guess more positive approach, which is there's nothing I can do about these things. There's nothing I can do about the industry being slow. There's nothing really I can do about productions paying co-star rates to technical guest stars. So I'm gonna keep doing what I love to do in life, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
If and when I book a feature film, if I become the next Jim of The Office, which is my ultimate goal, like that'll happen. But until then, I'm gonna find what I love to do and keep doing it. Like I got asked on set the other day by my PA, like, where do you want to go? Like, what do you want to do in your career? And I said, I want to do what I'm doing and love what I do as I'm doing now. I don't need to be the next big whatever. If
Same.
I'm enjoying my life and the ride that I'm on and the work that I'm doing, to me, that's good enough. And it's a different mentality than I used to have. I used to be, I don't want to say hungrier, but my priorities were different. But now I'm just like, keep creating, keep producing. If you can act in a movie here and there, awesome. If you can book a role, amazing. But like, don't hold out for the one booking that's going to change everything. Don't hold out for the one feature film. Just keep plugging along and it'll happen.
That's a great
So
way to look.
I think that's a great way to look at that.
I think
I
I'd
think
fall
that's
into a
kind
pit of despair if I didn't. Like it gets
We all,
depressing.
yeah, it is depressing
Yeah.
because it's not linear. You have no control over this.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to create a space for yourself that works for you and then build that out. And then whatever is going to be gravitated towards that is what is. And if it's not, then you're
100%.
happy. Yeah.
Shannon, what were you going to say? I feel like I interrupted you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, I think that's kind of where we've grown to in this past year, and having Hag and each other has certainly helped with that because
Oh my God.
whether I book a big movie or TV show or not, I'm still gonna be editing this podcast every week, and I'm
Yeah,
still working on a feature film, and
Yep.
that's what fulfills me. And
Same.
when the bookings
it's great.
come, it's great.
Yep. And like, I just, I like don't even know if I would have stayed in this industry if I weren't creating my own stuff. Like if we didn't have Hag and we weren't doing what we're doing, I wouldn't be grounded to anything. It just would be, it's so fleeting, just auditioning and waiting. And then with this lull, like I just don't know if I could have handled it, not
And I
taking.
also think you get, from what I've seen, you get more desperate when you don't have as much. Like
Oh,
when I get
seriously.
auditions, a
Yeah.
lot of times the response is, "Oh, when am I
Same.
going to do this?" And that's not good either.
Uh-huh.
But like with a new, like with a baby and my career and a wife and two animals and like all the things that just come with life and my career already and everything that I have going on, I gotta find a 15-minute slice where I can do this audition. But there's not desperation anymore because yes, I would love to book the Peacock show I went out for last week. Second time in, great role for me, would love to book it, but I'm not dependent on that because I'm creating my own stuff. And if I want to create my own whatever tomorrow, I literally could.
Yep.
And I think everything I was saying about the kind of the way I'm going to keep plugging away and keep doing it, I'm in a very special position because my life journey brought me to a point where I've learned how to do all these things. I look at people who are just in post, like so many editor friends are like, hey, if anyone has any work, I don't even care if it's editing. I just need money. I need to survive. And I'm like, damn, that is so hard. Like people who do crafty on set, hair and makeup artists, like during the strike, during the pandemic, that's all they had
Yeah.
because that is what they do for a living. Because I can do all of it, like last year was my biggest year as a producer. And a lot of people were like, it's so slow, it's so dead, there's a strike. And I'm like, I just signed the biggest contract of my producing career. So when everyone outside of LA is like, oh, you guys are in a strike, how's it going? Like, how's this year been? I'm like, really good, actually. Like,
I'm
I started a
crushing.
business and things are, yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm in a very interesting situation where y'all are similarly, like we can just
Yeah.
do it all. So we can do it all.
Yeah.
It's a weird situation. People say it's like the hyphenate generation
Yeah. You have
where
to. Like, you gotta, like, you can't just do one thing. I mean, even
it's
actors, like, you can't
really
just,
tricky. Because
yeah,
also
it
then
is.
people like, the old school mentality, and I've spoken to directors who've been in this town for 40 years, they're like, you do one thing. If you say you do more than that, you do none of them well. It's master of none,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And a part of it's true, but at the same time, it's like, it's not true. Like I'm making a living doing literally every commercial I've been on. I am doing 25 roles. No
Yeah.
joke, 25. Crafty, props, casting, PA, like all the things. And I can do it successfully. So that's a tricky thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have found that working behind the camera in all of those different departments makes me a much better actor, and being an actor makes me better at everything else.
Yep.
So,
Yep. You could think
I
about the
mean,
edit. Yeah.
Emily and Jimmy hear this probably all the time in the studio, but like we preach that. I preach that. Getting behind a camera, getting behind a casting director desk, there is nothing better than that. You will learn editing alone, the way it's made me as an actor. I'm so conscientious, it's a hard word, of my acting. When I'm given a prop, the last two shows I was on, The Rookie and The Middle, I was given a prop. I was given a drink and a clipboard and a tool belt with tons of tools. And right away, I had to be like, okay, what am I doing with these props? How am I holding these props? And I knew that I'm holding this drink the entire time like this. And if I'm removing a hand, it's going to be this hand. I know that and I do that. So that alone, just with editing, but I digress. Being behind the camera, there's nothing better. And also coaching.
Oh, I
Uh,
bet.
mhm.
Coaching is the best. And I was just talking to Sid this morning, who I believe was on the podcast, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Yeah. We hung out with him all day yesterday.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram. God, that looked
Yeah.
amazing. I looked at that and I was like, oh man, I want to do this. And I was like, oh, I have a baby and like I can't do these things anymore.
Yeah.
But it looked amazing. It looked like a lot of fun. But he and I hung out last week. He came over for coffee and we talked for like 2.5 hours straight. And we were just talking about like, he's been coaching for 2 years at the studio now. And he was talking about how much better of an actor he's become through coaching. And same, like the way I can break down scenes for other people that aren't me, it comes so naturally and I love to do it. But then when I get it, I become a mess and I forget everything. But when I'm
Oh,
doing it for
yeah.
someone else, it's so clear as day. Like what casting is looking for, what this role is, why they gave these pages, what the objective is. Like I can see it so clearly, and that helps me so much as an actor. So much.
Mhm.
You probably
I
feel
Yeah.
the
think
same way.
too, with that, like getting the materials for roles that you would never go out for just
Yeah.
gets the wheels turning in a way they wouldn't otherwise.
100%.
A
Could not
hundred
have said it
percent.
better myself.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Okay, wow, so many great stories. Thank you for all that. Jimmy, do you want to ask the first outro question?
Yes. What is your favorite part of your daily routine?
That's a really hard question.
I know.
You can cut out like 2 minutes of me thinking.
Just zoom in
My
on you.
favorite part of my daily routine. Here's the thing. This is a cheating answer, but I don't really have a daily routine because my career is so incredibly insane and random that I don't have one thing that I do every day.
I don't either, but I have a culmination of what I do in the week, like physical activity or something that it's like I do it
Yeah.
4 to 5 times. Yeah.
I'll say what it used to be. With my baby and my new life that I'm figuring out, I just don't have a routine. Like, you know what? No. I'll say my morning coffee.
Mm,
Um, as I'm having it at 3 p.m. But my morning coffee is hands down my favorite thing to start to the day. It used to be working out, and I would literally have insomnia at night because I'd be so excited to work out the next day. But I injured myself. I haven't been able to work out for 6 months, and I've lost that completely. So it used to be working out. It's now my morning cup of coffee. You can just cut all that other bullshit. You can literally just say the
No,
soundbite
keep it
is
on.
it's
My
so
morning cup of
boring.
coffee.
It is such a boring answer. My morning cup of
Wait,
coffee now. It used to be working out.
how do you make your coffee?
Oof, girl. We have, I mean,
Do you have
Emily
an
saw,
espresso?
we have everything. We have an espresso machine, we have a pour over machine, we have a drip coffee, we have a cold brew maker, and we have a French press.
Yeah, I've been French pressing. I've got my French press over there. But
Pour over is my choice.
Pour over is my choice, or an Americano, like an espresso cut with water.
I've been messing with Americanos lately. I didn't
I
really
love.
realize that was a thing until like a year
Oh,
ago.
they're so good. The bite is a lot better to me than a
Yeah.
drip. Yeah.
I also had been messing with a cortado.
Oh, I haven't cortadoed. What is that?
It's a latte with like no milk, like very, very little milk. Because I love lattes, but I don't like all of that milk. I want more coffee flavor.
I've
So
seen them. They're like
yeah.
this big, right?
Yeah. They're kind of like cappuccinos, but they're not frothed.
Interesting. Okay.
Cortado.
I'll hit up a cortado.
Hit it up.
Yeah, I
See what
will.
you
I
think.
will.
Make sure it's like oat milk or almond milk because we live in LA
Oh,
and
for
we can't
sure.
do dairy. Yeah.
Oh no, I'd be sick. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I
Crazy.
really can't do dairy.
No,
I
I
can't
really
either.
can't. I can't.
Okay, Emily, I'm gonna ask the next one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before I do that, I have a random question that's totally unrelated to filmmaking. But since you mentioned your baby, so after I watched Ella, she doesn't like new people, or like it takes time for her to warm up. So how did she like react to like Caden? Was she like skeptical? Did she not like him? Were they besties?
Really great question. Really great question. It's twofold. One, we were told to bring back something that smelled like him from the hospital.
Mm.
So after being in the hospital for 2 or 3 days, I came home with his blanket that he'd been wrapped in and left it on the bed. And when I came home a day later or whatever, or a few hours later, Captain America, my cat, was laying on it. It was the cutest thing in the world.
Aw.
So that was number one. Number two, when we brought him in, we kind of like brought him into the car seat and just like put him there on the ground so that Ella and Captain could like smell him. Ella does great with babies, terrible with kids, not great with adults,
Damn.
questionable with dogs. But babies are, she's just confused by them. She's like, "What are you?" We have three close couple friends, and they all have babies. They're all now 2 years old. And Ella is fine with all of them because she's known them since they were babies. So long story short, she's totally fine. She'll like snarl at him from time to time now that he's like grabbing things and crawling and babbling a bunch, which is annoying, but she'll attack. She's bit or snipped at the two people who went near Caden, our birth photographer, and our doula when they like went to pick him up because she's so protective of him.
Aww.
But I think she realizes that like she is me and Eric combined, so she's okay with him.
That's so sweet. I've
that
heard
is
about
really
like
sweet.
dogs while like the mother's pregnant and how sweet and like caring they are, and then like as soon as the baby comes, they're like so protective.
Yeah, Ella wasn't. I don't think Ella ever realized that Eric was pregnant. Like I've seen so many cute videos of like the dog laying on the like belly, and Ella had no fucking idea. She had no idea.
She's trying her best.
She is.
Anyways, what would you be doing if you weren't an actor?
Or a filmmaker.
Yeah, or filmmaker.
Guys, these questions are so difficult. Maybe I should have asked for these beforehand. I have no idea. I would be running a general store with my wife in Cape Cod.
Oh, I totally could see that.
Cute.
Like Whole Foods. Yeah.
Barron's General and Cafe. We've talked about it many times.
You could retire
Love
and do
that.
that.
I'm just might.
You should.
Well,
Yeah.
then it would be retiring because
that
Yeah.
just means you're working.
I tried to convince Erica this year to sell our house and move to Cape Cod and start our own coffee shop. I even looked at a space.
Was she into
Wow.
it?
No.
Oh.
She said if I really wanted to do it, she would do it. But she's like, if it's your dream, we'll do it. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good for now.
Love that.
I do too.
It's a really hard question.
Well,
Can I
this
ask
one,
you guys?
Sure.
We don't have to put this in the podcast, but like,
No, we can keep it.
if you weren't doing what you're doing, what would you be doing? What
We've
career?
actually we've answered this before on the podcast. I would be a primary care doctor.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would probably do what I thought I was gonna do. I like was gonna be because I lived in Taiwan and then went back and been to China a bunch. And I was gonna be like a cultural liaison for American nonprofits, businesses entering those two markets, which is
Oh,
probably what I would be doing.
Yeah, mine's all over the place, but I was wanting to go to the Fashion Institute for Design and Technology for fashion design because I did that like when I was a kid, like I did sewing and fashion design. So I'd either do that or like kinesiology because I grew up like dancing and doing sports and got injured so much. So like that realm like really interested me.
I'm not even gonna try and say that word, but what is that exactly?
It's like I
So
can't even
like,
I don't know. It's like
I think it's
sports like
Sports medicine.
yeah,
the
oh,
study
okay.
of the body movement. Like
yeah.
kinesiology is the study of the way the body moves.
Yeah, so like I could have
Mm,
gone into like physical therapy or like health instructor stuff and like stretching, things like that, like preventing injuries and recovering from injuries.
that's fascinating. What crazy answers? Like, besides the fashion, none of those have anything to do with art.
No.
It's really,
Well, mine's like storytelling, but culture,
yeah, yeah,
but it's not creative. Yeah.
right. Wow, I'm in physical therapy every single week. So that's a
I
that's yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I hate physical therapy.
Oh, I
So
love
much.
Oh, God, I hate it.
the traction machine if you've ever been for your back and they put
Oh,
you
is
in.
that the upside down thing?
It's not upside down. It was like this electric machine. They like strap you in and like pull your spine.
That's my dream. I want that for the rest of my life. I
It was
dream of
so
that.
good. I'd be in it for 20 minutes.
Dude,
I'd leave my phone out there. They said I was the only person who left their phone out, which I
no,
find
the phone. I'm trying to
leave
relax.
me
Yeah.
alone. I'm meditating and
Oh,
my
I
back
want that
is
so
cool.
bad.
I
Okay, yeah, I
miss
do like that. And then the electro thingies, the little things they put on you.
would
Yep.
do that right
Love
after.
that.
Okay. Last question. This one's probably the hardest, so brace yourself.
I kind of forgot the last question.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I quote you for this.
She does.
You quote me for this?
Yeah.
Can you tell me and then I can just say that? Oh, you told me the other day this, didn't you?
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't remember what you were mentoring me for something. I can't remember what it was. I genuinely don't. It was like 3 years ago. And I don't even remember the context for when you told me this, but you basically were like nobody in this industry is going to open a door for you. Like you've got to create your own space. And I say that all the time. Like
That's
create your own
smart.
space. Yeah, I know. It's really smart.
I said that.
You did say that.
Best piece of advice. Damn, that's hard too. Because I don't remember what is advice and what is things that I've made up. Okay. I'm gonna say two things. I'm gonna cheat. I'm answering these questions terribly.
No,
I'm not
do it how you
following
want to
any
do it. It
rules.
doesn't matter. It doesn't
Doing
matter.
great.
That's on par.
I'm gonna give the advice that I give people because I'm guessing at one point someone gave that to me.
Mm.
And then I'm gonna give the one that I know I did not create. So the one that I give to people that someone probably gave to me is do what you love and do it 100%, whether it's working at McDonald's, being a janitor, being a lawyer, whatever you want to do, just do it. Like Nike said that once, I believe. But
Mm.
Yeah.
I think
whenever
so.
people, I think that's something they may have
Oh,
come up with,
I
but
don't know.
whatever. A lot of when I was first starting out, a lot of podcasts, a lot of articles would always ask me, like, how do you be an actor? Like, it's so difficult. The chances are so rare. And I'm like, bump all that. Like, if you
Yeah.
love to do something, just do it. And if you
Yep.
stop loving it, stop doing it.
Yep.
But like, we got one life. Don't be one of those people who became an accountant because their dad wanted them to become an accountant or a lawyer. Like, do the thing you want to do.
Yep.
So that's that answer. But again, I think I may have made that one up. So the other piece of advice is something I teach in the studio, which is when it comes to acting, stop seeing rejection as rejection.
Mm.
Rejection doesn't exist. It truly doesn't in this town, unless you are a terrible actor who is unprepared and you don't know what you're doing. The shirt analogy is my favorite thing I've ever heard, which is if you're going to a Hawaiian luau party and you're a poor actor and you have $20 in your bank account, but you don't have a Hawaiian shirt, you go to Target, you find 20 shirts you love, but only one of them is a Hawaiian luau shirt. So you buy that shirt. The other 19 shirts you still love. You don't love them any less. They're just not the right shirt for this party. To me, that's auditioning. Every actor is just not the right shirt for the party until they are. But guess what? Casting is going to remember those shirts / actors. And when they need a new shirt for a new party, they're going to come back and pick out that shirt. I auditioned for the middle 17 times before I booked it. 15 times, booked it. Scene got cut. 3 more times to producers, booked it. Scene made the air. 17 times before I got on national television for that show. I just wasn't the right shirt for the party. And even when I went back to producers, I was like, this is not me. When I finally booked the 17th time, I said to my wife, I'm going to book this. I am the right shirt for this party. This is me. I know I am booking this. And I did. So the shirt analogy is one of my favorites that I've ever heard.
I love that.
It keeps me going. When I don't get something, I don't feel bad. I didn't do anything wrong. I just wasn't the right shirt for the party.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. Yeah.
That's why I don't think rejection exists as an actor.
It doesn't.
It's not rejection.
Just wasn't the fit. You can't force something that wasn't meant to be. Yeah.
And going back to our previous conversation, getting behind that casting table and getting behind that camera, you start to see it. I was in a session for a national show, helping them tape it. And 3 girls came in to read with the lead actor. They were testing. And the third was by far the best. And immediately I was like, she's the best. She left. They're like, all right, it's either 1 or 2. 3 was, we could all agree, the best actor, didn't have the sexiness because it was the mistress of the lead. She didn't bring the sexuality and she wasn't the most attractive. And that was just that one role. But like, best actor by far, didn't book the role.
Yep.
Not the right shirt for the party.
Always like that. And it's like, yeah, that's that us doing stuff behind the camera, what you said, like it really helps you decenter yourself. And it's just for the integrity of the project and has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
That happened with us with one thing that we were casting. It literally came down to the heights of the actors because we were like, oh, we love this actor, but he's so tall. And I was running camera and we were like, no budget film set, short person running camera. Can't have that. And other short actors. Yeah. So like it literally came down to like, oh, we loved all of them, but who's the best height to get eye lines and camera?
And the person
had to go.
The screenwriter was fighting really hard for the tall guy. And I was like, we cannot do that. It's just not going to happen. This other guy's great. He's perfect for the part.
It's guys, the amount of I've worked on like 10 national commercials this year, producing, right? And casting. The amount of times they just swap in actors completely willy-nilly, just based on like, yeah, we have 2 brunettes. Okay, let's just get rid of one of them, put one in. Like it is so like, I don't want to say subjective. It's so lackadaisical. No, lackadaisical is not the right word either. But it's like there's no thought to it. Like as an actor, I'm like, oh, but their audition was so good. They worked so hard. But it's like none of it matters. It's like this girl looks like she's 2 years younger. So it's not going to work because we don't believe that they would be friends. Do you believe this group would be friends? Well, what about this person? Okay, take out these 2 and put these 2 back in. And it's like there's no thought towards how the actors feel. It's literally just like what feels right to production. It is. I've never seen anything like it. And it makes me so much more of like, it's nothing that you are doing wrong. Unless it is. Then get better trained, learn how to act. But like, once you get to a certain point that hopefully we are all at.
If you're operating at that high level, like in those rooms doing what you're doing, it's not you.
It's not you at that point. Nope.
No. Wow. That is a fantastic way to end this.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thank you so much, Noah. This
Yeah.
so much fun. So many amazing stories. I think the
So
viewers are
good.
really gonna enjoy this
Dude,
one.
they're gonna eat this up. Are you kidding? Yeah.
Emily, where can they find us?
You can find us at the Hags Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and at Hag Productions on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
And Jimmy, where can they watch or listen?
All right, guys. We are fully on Apple Podcast, Samsung. What was the other one, Cheyenne?
Amazon Music.
Amazon Music, all at the Hags Podcast. We're on Spotify at the Hags Podcast. And I'm not going to say this wrong this time. We are on YouTube at Hag No S Productions.
Yes. You
Production.
probably should start saying
Wow.
we're available wherever you listen to your podcasts.
You know what? Wherever you listen, it's going to be there because Cheyenne did the work and got us up. Okay. Yeah, she did the work. So we're there.
Well, thank you again, Noah. And see you all next week.
See you all next week. Bye.
Bye.